Aloha! Welcome to Throwback Thursday at the BishopMuseum Library and Archives. I'm Hadley Andersen.
I am DeSoto Brown, the BishopMuseum archivist / historian. And today, what are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about lava.
Lava.
It's one of my favorite subjects.
Lava. Well, the inspiration for wanting to talk about lava today is that this year, 2016, is the centennial of the formation of the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, which took place in 1960. Wow. But even though the park was officially formed then, it really didn't kind of come online and become really active until it was dedicated, which I think was in 1921. Well, regardless of that, it's whether there's a national park there or not, there has been and continues to be hot lava, and that's what we're going to talk about. Now, first of all, that's kind of a cool thing. This is a book cover from 1894. And the title of the book is In Search of a Climate. But you'll see that the bulk of the cover of the book is taken up by this wonderful depiction of the flaming pit of the Halemaumau crater. And during that time period, from the time that Westerners first came to the Hawaiian Islands up until 1924, for the bulk of that time period, there was, in fact, fluid liquid lava in the Halemaumau crater. So if you went on the trip all the way up there to see it, you probably were going to be assured of seeing lava. And that was a wonderful thing for the early tourist industry. But it's also one of the really significant and unique things about the Hawaiian Islands that was used very early on, not only for tourism, but just for literature in general, thus the cover of this book. And speaking of tourism, etc., this is the front and back cover of a multi-page kind of a booklet / brochure that was published in 1917 by the Hilo Board of Trade, and it is just a publicity piece about why you want to come to the island of Hawaii, or why you want to do business there, or why you want to live there. But of course, as you can see on the cover there, again, is the crater of Halemaumau with the flaming hot lava in it, again, as the unique thing that you would want to come to see on that island. And here's a little something that is, I'm sure you've never seen before.
No, definitely not.
No, you haven't. This is something which most people probably are not familiar with anymore. It was a non-profit organization that was called Hui o Pele, which means the Pele organization or club. And it was a fundraiser for the national park. And so when tourists went to visit the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, they could purchase, well, they could make a donation to Hui o Pele, and the funds would then go into things like improving trails or building campsites or things like that. And you got a certificate like this one. This one dates from 1934. Or you could get a little pin, which was in the shape of that round logo that you see in the bottom corner of this certificate. And this organization functioned from the 1920s up into the 1960s. And it's kind of a cool little souvenir thing.
Absolutely.
And if you look down here, there's a little burn mark. And that is the supposed Pele's signature, this burn mark on your certificate. Okay, but as I said, the whole point of the national park is hot lava and volcanic activity. And a lot of important, interesting, significant, wonderful volcanic things have occurred in those 100 years, in more than 100 years certainly, but in the time period that we're discussing. And here is one of the most spectacular things that has occurred during that time period. This is in 1924. In May of 1924, Halemaumau crater underwent a series of catastrophic, large explosions. And that's what you see going on in this photograph. Now, interestingly enough, if you were up at the Volcano House Hotel, you had a beautiful view looking down on this, and you could stand and just watch this occur. So in the foreground of this picture is a group of tourists who are just standing and watching this massive eruption cloud that's going on in the background. And of course there were giant rocks that were being thrown around, there were earthquakes. One man was killed when he was hit by a giant rock.
Oh, one of the volcanic bombs probably.
Yeah, it was actually, it wasn't hot lava, it was just a rock that was blown up out of the crater. Landed on him when he had gone too close to the crater to try to take a picture, and it was one of the early modern day fatalities that has occurred because of volcanic activity.
Yeah, that photo, I've seen that photo a couple of times, and it just causes me worry every time I watch it.
Well, it is an astonishing thing, and huge volcanic eruption clouds are awe-inspiring, but really scary too, and that's what you see in that picture. So, now, of course, hot lava sometimes is just in the crater, and we can look at it from a distance, but it flows where it wants to flow. And this is a photograph in 1926, of April 1926, of the small town or little village of Ho'opuloa being overwhelmed and destroyed by a lava flow, an a'a lava flow from Kilauea. And as you can see right here is a house, which is right in the way of the flow, and in subsequent pictures by this same photographer, the house gets pushed aside as well as burned, and eventually this entire settlement was overwhelmed and the bay was filled with lava. This is one of, certainly in the 20th century, this is one of the first times that this occurred in which a settlement was destroyed. But it certainly wasn't the last time, because
Certainly
it's
not.
still happening.
Absolutely.
Those were Kilauea eruptions, but Mauna Loa is also an active volcano. It erupts a lot less frequently, which is probably a good thing, because it's considerably larger than Kilauea, and when it does erupt, it puts out lots more lava and a lot quicker. This photograph I'm showing you here is a color photograph of lava going over the highway in the South Kona district in 1950 from Mauna Loa eruption. And that eruption, the lava reached the ocean, spectacular steam clouds were created. People barely got out of the way of this flow. It was happening in the middle of the night. And in those days in 1950, of course, communication was not as fast as it is now. And people, again, as I said, had to flee, in some cases, from their homes up in the forest up Mauka as the lava was coming, because it was moving fast.
Oh, yeah. Although a lot of people, you see videos of Pahoehoe lava flow, and it's more liquidy, so it looks faster, but even though it's very crumbly and sticky, can flow just as fast.
Well, and the other thing, too, is this is going downhill. So it's going to go even faster because gravity is pulling it. Well, here's a picture of the aftermath of the scene that I just showed you. And here are people coming to look at the lava flow, having crossed that highway in South Kona. And the flow has stopped, and so it's possible for them to just walk right up to it. You can see lying on top of the flow are trees which were burned off at the base and have fallen down and moved on the top of the flow, which is not as hot, so the trees have not been consumed by fire. Obviously, this cuts off all transportation for a time until the road can be rebuilt, or at least something can be done to get the traffic flowing again. Here is
Oh my goodness.
a really cool picture. You can see why this was referred to as the drive-in volcano. This is Kilauea Iki crater, which is near Halemaumau crater in the Volcanoes National Park, which erupted, this is the Kapoho eruption, which took place right about the same time in 1959, 1960. And this Kapoho eruption, the lava the ground cracked right near the town of Kapoho. Steam began coming out, cinders, and eventually lava, and it overwhelmed the town. But in the meantime, it was easy for people to get to see that active volcano going on, and so people could just drive right up and park and look. And that's what's going on. There's a cinder eruption going on. Cinders are little light pieces of rock that there's a lot of on the Big Island. And when there's a cinder eruption,
My goodness.
lots of cinders are thrown out of that eruption. Here's what happened to a parked Willis station wagon, which I presume wasn't functioning anymore, that was also in the town of Kapoho or nearby. And as you can see, it's been almost entirely buried in cinders. And presumably it just got left there. The man sitting in it obviously has been posed just for the sake of taking a picture. He wasn't really the owner or the driver, or at least nobody was driving it at that point. Well, the lava keeps coming. The lava eruptions are continuing. They still will continue long after all of us are gone. And possibly many of you know that in addition to the active volcanoes on Hawaii Island, There's also one offshore coming up from the bottom of the ocean, and that's called Loihi. And within 10,000 years, give or take.
30,000 to 100,000.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, sorry.
30 to 100,000 years from now, we won't be here. Loihi will presumably grow high enough to come up above the surface of the ocean, continue to grow, and gradually merge with the rest of the Hawaii island.
Absolutely. Right now, it's already 15,000 feet off the bottom of the ocean floor.
Yeah, it's big. It's big.
Yeah, it just needs to grow another 3,000 feet. You know.
Right. Yeah, is that all? But you know, we can't see it because it's 3,000 feet below the surface. Well, starting in 1983, Kilauea began an eruption which is still going on to this day. And just recently, that lava has reached the ocean again, so that people can go and see lava going into the ocean, which is always spectacular, although you have to be very careful.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Here's a picture, an aerial photograph taken in the 1980s of one of those Kilauea flows. And those lava flows went through a variety of inhabited areas. Just last year, in fact, lava almost went in through the town of Pahoa, but fortunately didn't. Stopped right nearby. But in this photograph, you can see one of the subdivisions, which was overwhelmed by lava, and that's intersection. Lava is flowing past the stop sign without stopping and overwhelming the road, and the asphalt is burning because it's so hot, so you can see flames coming up from that. So, there you go.
Now, obviously, the Big Island has a lot of lava, but if you're over here on Oahu and you are visiting and you want to see some lava, here at the BishopMuseum, we have a daily lava show at 12 o'clock and 2:30, where we melt down cinder rock and pour out hot molten lava.
So you see, it is not just Pele who can create lava, but humans can create lava too, at least an approximation thereof, and only in small amounts, certainly not what the volcanoes on Hawaii Island are capable of, and which are continuing to do. So that's our Throwback Thursday for this week. And
the Bishop Museum always has things going on, and if you can't visit in person, please visit our website, bishopmuseum.org.
And there's the address right there. But either way, there's all kinds of wonderful stuff to find out about, information to see, pictures to look at, visits to make. There's always lots of interesting stuff happening at Bishop Museum, so come and see us, or come and see us electronically. And so, till next Throwback Thursday, aloha!
Aloha!